Hey everybody, and welcome to Sparky's Corner! In last time's installment, before I had a theme and intro, transitions, before I knew what I was goddamn doing, we talked about video game music in the 80s. Very, very briefly, of course, but it's a thought that counts. I can't get every video in there. I can't get every single game you guys want to see, or, there's a lot. And again, it's about music, not just good games. But I digress. That video can be found in this annotation in the top left, Alex Video Editor, and in the video description below. With all that nonsense out of the way, let's jump into today's topic, the 90s! And what better way to start off this video than with the same franchise as the last video, Super Mario.
And as a quick little side note, I encourage you to go to the videos that I list in the credits, watch them, and see if you can pick up on what I was putting down. Alright, enjoy, guys.
The standard coin noise. Brings back memories. And what's this here? Why, that's the menu theme. Oh, this sounds new as well. Good observation, me. Jesus. That's the new introduction theme played during the beginning cutscene you're seeing here. So, already we, the audience, are getting used to brand new themes for multiple different game segments, as opposed to the very first Super Mario Bros., which had far fewer themes. Now, granted, they did vary level to level, but there wasn't as much variety because it was fewer levels, or level types. As you can hear, this new ground theme is completely different than the one that was in the original Super Mario Bros., and rightfully so, it is a new game after all. You also may have noticed the sound effects are a bit different. Granted, when you pick up a mushroom power-up, you still know it's a mushroom power-up because of the escalating pitches. I took a little pause there so you could hear it. But the sound itself is different. That's because of the better sound card in the Super Nintendo system, as well as the cartridge itself, the evolution of technology and all that. Overall, though, there isn't much to say about how the music affects Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, because it's really, when things come down to it, the same as Super Mario Bros. For the original Nintendo. Yes, there are multiple different themes for each level, and even new themes like the introduction theme, stage-like theme, etc., but they don't affect the stages in new ways. Sure, the music may be new, and the stage select screen is a new feature and thus requires new music as well as the title screen, but does it really feel any different musically than the original Super Mario Bros.? In my opinion, not really. Now, that may be because the gameplay is about the same, so there was no real reason to jump over the top with brand new themes that wouldn't do so much to alter an already well-functioning platforming environment. In other words, why change what works? For themes. As far as motifs go, if you don't know what those are, you should watch the last video. Motifs are about the same here as well, but the sounds themselves are just played through different synthesizers. Let me put it this way. It's basically like the difference between an old, cheesy organ setting on a keyboard from the 80s and a newer, less cheesy organ setting on a keyboard from the 90s. It's the same music being played, but it just has a different timbre or sound quality. Granted, again, there are a few new features in the game, like the addition of Yoshi, for example, or those long, ovular dragon coins with Yoshi's face on them that Mario picks up, which, of course, are going to require new motifs and even some new music. Again, does this do anything drastically different to the gameplay? In some cases, sure, as far as Yoshi is concerned, because that's a new game dynamic. Yes, there are some well-conceived subtleties here as well. For example, when the player picks up a dragon coin, those big ovular ones, I think he will here in a moment. Let me see. Yep. There it is. The Yoshi sound effect, what you just heard, boop boo, can be heard, which basically is just because of the fact that Yoshi's head is on the coin. 5 of those are equivalent to 100 normal coins, aka an extra life, so when you pick up 5 of those, you can hear the extra life motif. But is it any different than, say, the star power-up motif from the original Super Mario Bros. That makes a reappearance here? I don't think so. All in all, the game music is definitely effective, and that's because it bases its roots in the original Super Mario Bros. Format. Motifs for certain actions and power-ups, a few themes that repeat for different level types to make them pop, etc. Like, the ground theme we're listening to, or the water theme, or the air theme, or the dungeon theme. So, the player would say things like, oh, I'm on a ground level. It feels that way, especially because the music is very stable and rooted. You know, oh, this is an air level with a bunch of clouds in it. Everything musically feels very floaty and ethereal, etc. Minus a few new features gameplay-wise, like riding Yoshi, which brings about its own slew of motifs and themes, the music holds about the same role, which is to make the actions that the player does pop, as well as the levels themselves pop. Being Super Mario Bros., it does, as it did with its predecessors, an excellent job of making the levels and the actions pop. I'd say this is effective game music. Transition! Is it? Could it be? That's right. It's Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Ah, man. You know, I'm not sure if a gaming rivalry as big as Sonic vs. Mario has existed before or will exist ever again anytime soon. That being said, there are a surprising amount of similarities between the two games. One of them is the title theme. Yeah, Sonic has a pretty catchy title theme, it's true. So does Super Mario World. Most games have a title theme though, so why count that as a similarity? Alright, devil's advocate me. What about the fact that both games have similar sound effects when picking up items? For example, Sonic's ring motif, which you'll hear in just a moment. Hold on. There we go. And Mario's coin motif both involve ascending musical patterns, fancy talk for the notes go upwards. Both of them need 100 tokens, we'll call them, to get an extra life, i.e. 100 rings for Sonic, 100 coins for Mario. And both of them have their own little motif when an extra life is gained. Let's see if it's coming up in a second here, I think. Let's see. Just be a minute. And there you go. You know, this again makes the player's action pop more, you know? What I mean is, getting 100 coins and an extra life is impressive on its own, but a player who's in the zone may not necessarily notice because of what visuals are telling him, especially him or her, especially because there aren't really any visual cues to let you know you have an extra life other than the little life counter going up, and if you're in the zone, you may not see that. The audio cue, in so much as a short little motif, might not only alerts the player as to what's happened, but also makes the whole experience stand out more. You feel a little more victorious knowing you picked up all 100, now you have an extra life. The same is true for most things in both games. Jumping, running, doing a roll in Sonic versus jumping on Yoshi and Mario, etc. all have their own little motifs. Even more strange, both games have themes that last through large segments of gameplay, wherein Mario has the ground theme, sky theme, underwater theme, etc., which will all recur at those levels. You know, if you're at a water level, you hear the water level, you hear just a normal ground level, normal ground theme, etc. Sonic has themes that last through zones, i.e. hill zones, the first few stages which you see here, plant zones, the stages that come afterwards, etc. And those themes take place for those whole stages. Mario has an invincibility theme, Sonic has an invincibility theme, so on and so forth. The point is that both games use very similar musical techniques in order to immerse the gamer in the experience. Considering that Sonic does what Mario does, especially in, you know, a lot of different ways, audio-wise, as down to the little details of motifs, and the gameplay, while it is different in a lot of ways, it is a platformer and there are a lot of similarities there. Considering they do all very similar things, only a little differently, you know, some noises are simply noises, not musical at all in the case of Sonic, I would say that it's equally as effective at immersing the gamer, making his or her actions stand out, and overall, making levels pop with their respective simplistic themes. So, in short, Sonic 2 definitely has very effective game music. Shoryuken! Whoa, what was that? Could it have been a Shoryuken from Street Fighter? Yes, that's exactly what it was. Man, nothing's harder than a good game of Super Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo. That game, man, I mean the pros on there are simply ridiculous. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up a guy named Daigo Umehara. It's unfeasible that anybody could actually beat him or any one of the pros, besides other pros, of course. I mean, a pro can only beat a pro, none of us could. And that's because the game's story mode was a tough one to beat, and plus they put hours and hours into it, and Anyways, on to the reason I'm making this video, which is the music. Super Street Fighter 2's music isn't anything groundbreaking, to be quite honest. Sure, the title theme includes the use of sound effects, as does the rest of the game, which aren't music, they're just supposed to be noises, and they are noises. But other than that, the music is pretty formulaic. There's a character selection theme, which plays during the... No, not the title. During the character selection screen. They also put in a challenger theme, which plays when the player has a new challenger awaiting, and that's about it. Otherwise, there are the level themes, which are completely different depending on the stage the player is on. What's nice, though, is that the themes were written to match the areas they were placed in. I.e. the Jamaican theme has a reggae nature to it. The American theme has a rock and roll feel, etc. When you beat the game, if you beat the game, you won't, there's an ending cinematic which has a short theme, and then the credits roll while that theme continues and expands and so on. Nothing really special there. Does the question is, does the music make the levels pop? Yeah, I'd say so. Does it really immerse the player in the level's environment? Sure, to an extent. I mean, if you took away the music from the levels, they'd feel a bit barren. They wouldn't pop as much. The game is more about the fighting mechanic than the level design, but the music certainly helps with the feel of each of the stages to bring it to life a bit more. Other than that, excuse me, sound effects are used, which are pretty non-musical, other than the points being added to the player's score, which is an ascending musical pattern, just like every other game, go figure. But all in all, is the music effective? Yeah, I'd say so. Not nearly as much as Mario or Sonic's themes, and not even remotely close to the games I'm about to talk about and look at, but for the gameplay mechanic one-on-one fighting, the music of Super Street Fighter 2 gets the job done.